Hi friends, please settle down and close your beautiful eyes. चलिए Online friends, please confirm that you can see me and hear me all right. You are with me. ठीक है. Two things asked by online students, very pertinent for the classroom students also. One is, what is Asiatic mode of production? That is something we'll discuss later. Somewhere we will. Okay, it's an important Marxist concept and we will somewhere discuss it. Another thing what is asked is, sir, and this is a very common difficulty, the topics you taught in historical materialism are provided under modes of production and vice versa in Nitin Sangwan. So that I completely am aware of. Now how do we address that? Marxist theory is integral whole. So for the sake of clarity, we have tried to segregate them into these different topics. Secondly, now if you have to pick between the two, I would advise, and strongly so, that you use the content discussed in the class. In other words, if you're writing on modes of production, those 5 are the stages, or they are the different modes of production. So Sangwan is not wrong on that count. But then, when you are explaining what mode of production is, say the question is, what is mode of production? Blunt, straight question. Then you should use all the jargon that we had discussed. And also mention the different modes of production. Are you with me? And while talking about historical materialism, you have to talk about how the development of society has taken place through various stages and why it is called materialist, why it is termed as historical, and also the application of the dialectical method. Okay? So the class thing we discussed is correct, and I am very well aware of this somewhat, ulta situation in Sangwan. Okay? Chaliye. Coming back, what is the last thing we had discussed? Mode of production. Pehle alienation. Pehle mode of production. So what is mode of production? Bitya? No, not you. Bitya. Yes? Yes. Tell me. Yes?
Production is the process in which the production of goods is carried out.
Wonderful.
There are subfeatures of that, means of production.
Thank you. What are means of production?
Means of production, sir, all the forces of production minus labor force.
All the forces of production except for labor. Absolutely. And what is forces of production?
All the forces of production that also includes labor force are called forces of production.
All the in my life? All the inputs in the production process are known as forces of production, such as land, capital, machinery, technology, ityadi. Wonderful. And what is the other aspect of a mode of production, Bitya? Raise your hand. Yes. Yeah. What is the other aspect of the mode of production? Aage badhiye. Relations of production. What are relations of production? The social relations that men enter into in order to produce are relations of production. Can you give me any examples? The worker-worker relationship, the worker-capitalist relationship. Wonderful. Here, what is Bitya? Bitya, raise your hand. Yes. No, at the back. What do you understand by the word superstructure? So what is superstructure? The question still stands. Different animals, elements of society, except for the economy. Wonderful. Such as, brother, what comprise the superstructure? Religion, education system, political system, law, etc. Wonderful. Brother, raise your hand. Yes, what is the relationship between base and superstructure? What is the base, by the way? The economy is the base. And what is the relationship between the base and the superstructure? पढ़ा नहीं, रिवाइज नहीं किया. कौन करेगा? कौन एग्जाम देगा for you? Brother? At the back? Yes, tell me, in white. Raise your hand. Yes, tell me, what is the relationship between base and superstructure? Why aren't we revising, yeah? Give it. How much time does it take you for a typical classes revision or day's revision? 20 minutes? 20, 25 minutes? Is that like good enough time? Tops 30 minutes? Devote at least that much time. At least. To remain in the fray. That's the least one can do. Okay? Please do that. Brother, behind you. Yes, just catch his attention for me. Yes, tell me. What is the relationship between base and superstructure? Beautiful smile. But that doesn't fetch us marks. Marks fetches us marks. Okay? Smile doesn't. Brother? Yes. No, in the last row. Yes. Absent. And your neighbor? Yes. Relationship between base and superstructure. Absent. And so proudly so. Brother? In red? Yes. Be a little louder, please. Superstructure helps in the functioning of of the economy or the infrastructure. And how? By legitimizing, absolutely. ठीक है. Or what is the other dimension of that relationship, brother? Yes. The base shapes the superstructure. How? Any example? And what do you mean by that? Just elaborate a bit. You're absolutely right. Bilkul. So the kind of family we have depends on the needs of the economy. Wonderful. ठीक है. क्या यही पढ़ा था हमने? Then we discussed the capitalist mode of production. Bitya? Yes. Tell me about the capitalist mode of production. What is this capital? Wonderful. And capital is the principal input in the production process. Continue, Bitya. Wonderful. We say two main classes. Because अगर हम बाल की खाल उतारेंगे तो there are other classes, but there are broadly two main classes, namely the bourgeois and the proletariat. Right? Bitia, spell bourgeoisie for me correctly. BOURGEOISIE. Good. Proud of you. है ना? You shouldn't get this spelling wrong. Otherwise it leaves a bad taste in the mouth. If you're writing the Marxist perspective and you get... I've read bourgeoisie spelled as, birju and all, which is not... बोलने में कुछ भी बोलो, because it's not a spoken exam. ठीक है? But when you're writing, have your basic spellings correct. ठीक है? Good. Tell me about the relationship between the two classes. So the capitalists decide, and now that we've developed a finer bhasha, we can use that. The bourgeois decide. ठीक है, various aspects related to the production process. बेटी कंटिन्यू करो ना, फिर से क्यों बोलोगे? हाँ हाँ. Yeah, tell me what is the nature of the relationship between the bourgeois and the proletariat? Bete? That's been spoken of, and you know it. Okay, so they take the decisions on the basis of the forces of, market forces of demand and supply. Continue. Absolutely. Who? हाँ, उनके लिए क्या शब्द है? The proletariat are dependent heavily on the bourgeois. Absolutely. For wages. For wages, हाँ. हाँ. We said that the proletariat are formally free. Continue. It is a market-based economy. Wonderful, brother. हाँ, so she's basically spoken of that. और हाँ, अगला हाँ, the means of production are privately owned by bourgeoisie. बिटिया हाँ जी क्या? What else? I'm not asking हाल चाल here. Okay. So anything else which has not been covered, Bitya? Engrossed in the notebook? ठीक है. So working class sell their labor power in return for wages. और Bitya? The driving force of all economic activity is profit. What is profit? Munafa? No, we need to do better than that. From a Marxist perspective, how do you explain profit?
That all the principal exchanges market and each and everything is denoted a value in the market economy.
Monetary value is assigned. No, that's not the Marxist explanation. That's the generic understanding of profit. You were one of the people who was suggesting it takes no more than 20 minutes to revise. Huh? Brother? The due of worker which is not given to him. Absolutely. Phrase that slightly better. The understanding is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, but just rephrase it in Marxist भाषा. समझाओ नहीं, मुझे पता है, उसकी भाषा चेंज करो. It is the surplus value of labor which is appropriated by the capitalist. Wonderful. और क्या पढ़ा हमने? Yes. MCM dash. What is MCM dash? Money? ना commodity and more money you end up with. ठीक है, good. What else, brother? What's alienation? It is an objective condition that characterizes capitalist society in which the workers feel that they do not feel happy at work. Elaborate, what are the 4 dimensions of alienation, Bitya? From the product of his labor. Brother, please open your eyes. Yes, and tell me. What are the remaining 3 dimensions of alienation? We are at that point in our discussion. What are the various types of alienation that the worker experiences? Brother? Alienated from the process of production. Next. Arey bhai, what are the 4 dimensions of alienation? We have talked about alienation from the product of the labor, from the process of production, from himself and from fellow workers and the wider society. बिल्कुल, बहुत अच्छी बात है. और is that where we ended? एक बात बताओ, is alienation uniquely present in capitalist society? The answer is no. It is not uniquely present in capitalist society. Ever since there has been private property, in other words, ever since society has been divided into 2 antagonistic classes, haves and have-nots, alienation has been present. But alienation reaches its peak in capitalist society. Okay? That is what Marx contends, that alienation reaches its peak in capitalist society. अब चलते हैं जीवन में आगे. I'm being asked a question. Sir, is proletariat those who exploit or those who are exploited? Those who are the exploited. Proletariat refers to the industrial working class who are the have-nots, the exploited lot. ठीक है? I'm being asked some things like what is fetishism of commodities, that we will discuss at some juncture, or how this dialectical perspective is used in Marxist theory. That also it will become clearer possibly after today's discussion. ठीक है? चलिए अब चलते हैं जीवन में आगे. Moving on, we will reach that egalitarian society in today itself, hopefully. ठीक है? Class struggle. Write down a sentence. Stop the crosstalk, please. Write down a sentence in quotes, in quotation marks. The history of all hitherto existing societies. The history of all hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggle. I repeat, the history of all hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggle. Quotes close. Who said that? Karl Marx. This Urdu word here, what it means? It basically means till now. Okay, or of the history of all societies that have existed till now has been the history of class struggles. In other words, all the societies that have existed till date are born out of a class struggle. So, human society has changed from one or evolved from one stage to the next. Under Marxism, you have primitive communist society being replaced by ancient slave society, being replaced by feudal society, being replaced by capitalist society, to be replaced by communist society. Why? When was Marx writing? He was in which society? He was a member of a industrial capitalist society. Thank you, Bete. Right? So all the societies that have existed till now were a result of a class struggle. That's what the sentence literally means. Meaning, how did the capitalist society come about? As a result of a class struggle. How did the feudal society emerge? Also as a result of a class struggle. In every historical epoch, you have two main antagonistic classes, haves and have-nots. Right? The relationship between them, there is a fundamental conflict of interest. One class gains only at the expense of the other, because of which there is continuous conflict between the two main classes in every historical epoch. मैं लिखवा भी दूंगा. I'll dictate also. So don't rush against time. So in every historical epoch, in every class society, there is a class struggle going on between the two main classes. Sometimes that conflict is overt, sometimes it is covert. Meaning sometimes it is overt, meaning it is above board, it is out in the open for all to see. Sometimes it is covert. Covert meaning hidden. Right? Not too visible, but it's always there. And every new mode of production is a result of a class struggle in the previous mode of production. ठीक है? पहले समझ लो फिर लिख लेना, मैं लिखवा दूंगा. Now let us try to appreciate how society transformed from feudalism to capitalism. Through this illustration, we'll try to appreciate how society is a result of a class struggle. ठीक है? थोड़ा सा अजीब. From feudalism to capitalism. So how does it happen, friends? What's a feudal society? What is the nature of the economy? It's primarily agrarian. Most people are engaged in agriculture, and then you would have certain crafts or trades, artisans, allied activities like doodh nikalna and stuff. Right? So how does this feudal agrarian economy get transformed into a capitalist industrial one? Is it out of the blue and all of a sudden? कि सब खेती बाड़ी कर रहे थे, लोगों ने सोचा अब खेती बाड़ी बंद, अब हम फैक्ट्री में काम करेंगे. Does it happen like that? The answer is no. So the new production technology, the new system of production starts developing within the old society. In other words, capitalist technology, capitalist production system begins to take shape, some form within a broadly feudal society. Let us say we are that feudal society. Okay, so who do we have here? Let's say this front row, these first two rows in this block, they are the lords. You guys are the lords. They own the vast tracts of land. These guys are the serfs, right? And then you would have some craftsmen, etc. Say the 3 rows over here, you make cloth, right? The next 3 rows, they are goldsmiths. The next 3 rows are ironsmiths. Okay, you have potters here and stuff like that. Okay, that is the feudal agrarian economy. And so, what is your relationship to these guys, the lords? कोई रिश्ता है या नहीं है? There is a very strong and abiding relationship between the lords and the serfs, and also the other artisans, etc. classes, right? Now what happens? In this broadly feudal agrarian complex, this fellow, okay, so he is an enterprising young man. What he says, he comes to the cloth makers and he says, guys, you are taking a lot of hassle upon yourself. You know, you make stuff, you procure stuff, inputs from the market, cotton, etc. You make cloth or clothes, you make clothes, say, and then you go to the weekly market to sell it, or you would, provide it in sort of a barter exchange to the lords and other members of the society. So much of hassle for you. Let me make it simpler for you. You guys produce whatever you're making. I will collect it all from you on a per piece basis. So you are saved from the hassle of having to, sell your produce. Okay? So you guys say what? All right. Great. Who is he? He is a trader, a merchant. Okay? Instead of producing anything himself, he is now buying from somebody and selling it to the others who need that. Trader, mediator, dalal. He may have come up from any class, possibly from the serfs, from amongst the serfs. Then this system goes on for a couple of generations. Then inke pote, parpote, vagera, they go to your parpote, etc. And then he says, what? That, let me make it even easier for you. Or this guy is thinking, how do I develop my business further? So he picks up whatever is locally available, gold ornaments from the goldsmiths, clothes from these guys, and he travels long distances to far off places, possibly sea voyages, to sell them in overseas markets. समझ रहे हैं आप? So अब ये कौन है? ये एक explorer, voyager, trader kind of a fellow. Are you with me? So he represents who? The early capitalists who have started developing the capitalist system within a broadly which society? Feudal agrarian society. ठीक? यहां तक क्लियर है? लिखो. Class struggle. In every historical epoch, there is present a fundamental conflict of interest between the two main classes. I repeat, in every historical epoch, there is present a fundamental conflict of interest between the two main classes, dash, the haves and the have-nots. Full stop. For instance, in feudalism, the lords and the serfs are antagonistic classes engaged in class struggle which is sometimes overt and sometimes covert. Overt matlab visible, above the board, out in the open. Covert means hidden. Normal English words, this is not Marxist terminology. Full stop. Next para. New productive forces start developing in the womb of the old society. New productive forces start developing in the womb of the old society. Full stop. Thus, capitalist technology and production system starts taking shape within the framework of a broadly feudal society. Capitalist technology and production system starts taking shape within the framework of a broadly feudal society. Okay? Full stop. The new productive forces continue to improve and develop further within the framework. Yes, लिख दो, within the old framework till as long as they can. Till as long as they can. Full stop. Stop writing. Now listen to me, then I'll again dictate. So like we said, he is an enterprising young fellow, or he represents a certain class of people, the early capitalists, right? Who are trying to develop this mercantile or trading merchant system within a broadly feudal economy. And this will go on for several generations and centuries. But then what happens, friends, at a certain point of time, this new mode of production, the new technology, the new productive forces cannot develop any further. Why? Because the existing feudal system will prevent the further development of the capitalist production methods. For example, after another couple of generations, these guys say, come to you cloth guys, and they say, I have a proposal. Let me make your lives further easier. I have identified this place where cotton, very fine cotton is grown and very cheaply. I have purchased a piece of land there, right? And why don't you guys come over there? It's near Manchester in England. Why don't you guys come over there and I'll pay you a monthly fixed amount? Are you with me? what you can call a wage. So who is he? Now what is he trying to do? He's trying to establish the first factory of sorts. So he's taking workers, encouraging workers to shift to a source, to a place which is near the source of raw material, saving on transportation costs, he'll invest in technology, etc. So he is now trying to establish the first factory. So will you guys go? No, you won't. That is the problem. Why? You will say कि हमने इनका नमक खाया है. In other words, you are tied to the feudal lords with obligations of fealty or loyalty. Are you with me? You have family ties going back several generations. Your ties with them are not just economic. It's not barter. See, these guys, they own the land in the village. So the whatever is grown on the land is theirs. A part of it is given to the serfs. The rest of it is the surplus which they own. And based on the distribution of this surplus, they enjoy or disburse in a way patronage in society. Are you with me? So other classes, other sections of the society depend on the lords to fulfill their grain requirements. In return, they provide their services. So clothes makers make clothes for them, goldsmiths make gold for them, and so on. But it's not a pure barter system, mind you. It's not just exchange of one produce in lieu of cloth. There is a certain religious basis to these ties. Are you with me? There is an ideological basis to these ties. These ties are not just pure transactional or economic in nature. इनकी सेवा करना इनका कर्तव्य है. It is their bounden duty to serve the families of the lords. Are you with me? So they say we can't go. Now what is happening? His capitalist production system cannot improve further because of the old feudal framework. It is then that a class struggle takes place. And this is the class struggle which changes the course of human history. This class struggle is between who? Yes, it is between, or it is this new emerging class of capitalists who challenge the authority, the dominance of the class which is dominant at present in the old era, which is feudal lords. And they overthrow the system. And in the process, they also mobilize Hakon people, the have-nots, absolutely. Are you with me? So this is what was really the kahani of the French Revolution. Are you with me? You had the three estates. The feudal system was challenged and abolished as a result of the the French Revolution. It was led by who? These guys, referred to as the bourgeois, the French middle class, the early capitalists. Okay, they led this charge against the monarchical feudal order, abolished it and replaced it with the industrial capitalist democratic framework. Are you with me? So ये है. तो लिखो. Clear है? लिखो. Next para. However, there comes a point of time. There comes a point of time in human history when new productive forces there comes a point of time in human history when new productive forces cannot develop any further. cannot develop any further within the old framework. Full stop. The old relations of production start serving as tethers. The old relations of production start serving as tethers to the further development of new productive forces. What have we said? We have said that this development of capitalist system continues within a broadly कैसी society? Feudal society till as long as it can. Right? But after a certain point of time, they cannot develop any further. Why? Because the old relations of production start serving as tethers. Tethers मतलब होता है बंदिश, बंधन, रुकावट. Okay? Or an impediment. It's not a Marxist term, it's an English word. You can replace it with any. An impediment or a roadblock. Okay? Something which prevents further this thing. So the old relations of production start serving as an impediment in the further development of new productive forces. Meaning what? कौन से old relations of production? The lords, the ties of the serfs, binding the serfs, etc. to the lords. They start preventing the further growth of the capitalist production system. ठीक है? Full stop. It is at this crucial juncture, it is at this crucial juncture in human history that a decisive class struggle takes place. I repeat, it is at this crucial juncture of human history that a decisive class struggle takes place. Full stop. The members of a rising class challenge the dominance of the entrenched minority ruling class I repeat, the members of a rising class challenge the dominance of the entrenched minority ruling class. And mobilize who? The have-nots. To overthrow the old system. To overthrow the old system and replace it with a new mode of production. What do we mean this rising class? The early capitalists, right, who had begun developing the capitalist system within the feudal society. The first capitalist or the nascent capitalist class. They are the rising class who will dominate the next epoch. who will dominate in the next historical epoch. Okay? They challenge the dominance of the entrenched minority ruling class. Entrenched मतलब जो धसे हुए हैं और जिनकी पकड़ अच्छी है society पे. Right? Those who are like, who have dug their heels and are in a privileged position in the old society, meaning who? कौन है entrenched ruling minority class? In our example, it is the feudal lords. So the early capitalists challenge the dominance of the feudal lords, and they also in the process mobilize who? The serfs, the have-nots, and overthrow the feudal society and replace it with the capitalist mode of production. Clear? ऐसे होती है class struggle. Now, let us try to appreciate how will be the class struggle which will lead to the replacement of capitalism by a communist society. This class struggle, friends, एक तो has it taken place or will it take place when Marx was writing? It will take place in the future. Okay? This class struggle, which will see the transformation or replacement of capitalism with communism, will be qualitatively different from the previous class struggles. Why will it be different? In what way? Firstly, all previous class struggles, they were primarily between numerical terms. What were the classes? The challenger class was a minority and the challenged class was minority or majority numerically? Minority. So the earlier class struggles were primarily between two numerically minority classes. But the class struggle which will ensure the transformation from capitalism to communism will be between a minority and a majority. The haves and the have-nots. Secondly, earlier class, may I? Or you want me to just hold? Like if you're noting down? Okay. The earlier class struggles were between minorities. She's asking how? Because it was the early capitalists who challenged the dominance of the feudal lords. The early capitalists were numerically a minority class. The masses or the majority were have-nots or serfs. Are you with me? And they challenged the dominance of the feudal lords, who were again numerically minority. So it was one minority class pitted against another. But this one, from capitalism to communism, will be between a numerical minority and the numerical majority. Secondly, what was the outcome of the earlier class struggles? The outcome was, so there was a system of inequality in place which was challenged. And what was it replaced by? Another system of inequality. So one class society was replaced by another class society. Say in ancient slave society you had classes. It was a class society. It was a stratified society. Replaced by a feudal society which was again a class society. Then again feudalism mein class struggle took place. Again one ruling class was replaced by another ruling class. Yes or no? So it was again a class society. But the class struggle which will ensure the transformation or the replacement of capitalism by communism, there will be how many classes as a result of this class struggle? It will be a classless society. So a class society will be replaced by a classless society. ठीक? A system of structured inequality will be replaced by an egalitarian social order. Right? Or simply a class society will be replaced by a classless society. Now, talking about or writing about this transformation from capitalism to communism, it was not Marx's wish. It was not his political agenda. It was not wishful thinking on his part. According to Marx and Engels, it was a scientific prediction. It was a certainty. Due to certain reasons, capitalist system is bound to fall and be replaced by communist society. There are certain inherent contradictions in capitalism which will ensure its downfall. कैपिटलिज्म का गिरना तय है. क्यों तय है और why is it or how will this replacement of how will this class struggle is inevitable. Okay, this proletariat revolution or the working class challenging, rising up to challenge and overthrow the capitalist system, it's a certainty. It is inevitable. Why? Because of the following reasons or factors. Firstly, friends, there is a fundamental conflict of interest between the two main classes, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. There is an underlying fundamental conflict of interest between the two main classes in capitalism. Between the two main classes, which cannot be resolved within the capitalist framework. I said there is a fundamental conflict of interest between the two main classes, which cannot be resolved within the framework of a capitalist society. Who are these two main classes? The bourgeois and the proletariat. What is the class interest of the bourgeois? Profit maximization. What is the class interest of the proletariat? Wage maximization. If wages rise, they will eat into the profits of the bourgeois. If profits are to be increased, they will try to depress the wages. So one class gains only at the expense of the other, and simply there is no resolution within the framework of a capitalist society. This is a very fundamental contradiction which always remains, making capitalism inherently unstable. Making capitalism inherently unstable. ठीक. Secondly, in case you ever feel I'm going a bit faster and you need a little more time to write, you can ask me to slow it down. I will do it. Huh? Secondly, there is a contradiction between the social nature of production and individual nature of ownership under capitalism. I repeat, there is a contradiction between the social nature of production and individual nature of ownership under capitalism. I repeat, there is a contradiction between the social nature of production and individual nature of ownership under capitalism. What does it mean? As Marx had written, production is necessarily a social enterprise. In other words, people do so collectively. It takes a large number of workers, say, to produce shirts in my factory or to produce a car, right? So many of us workers are producing things, putting our energies, our minds to the production of goods. But who owns those goods? The capitalist, the factory owner. They belong to him. So with passage of time, this realization will set in. Are you with me? बना हम सब रहे हैं, पसीना हम सब बहा रहे हैं, और इसको ओन कौन करता है? मालिक करता है. All right. Thirdly, Marx suggests that certain social processes are going on. Certain social processes are underway which will lead to class polarization. Certain social processes underway in capitalist society will lead to class polarization. Class polarization meaning that the capitalists and the working class, they will become two very distinct, clearly distinct and separate opposing classes. The distinction between the two classes will become very, very apparent, very obvious, and the opposition between the two classes will become very apparent as capitalism advances. What will happen that will ensure this class polarization, or the society getting clearly divided into two opposing classes, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat? Let us try to appreciate. As capitalism advances, the first such process is that as capitalism advances, what happens to technology? Technology improves. Clearly, there is technological advancement as capitalism progresses, right? And that technological advancement leads to de-skilling and consequent homogenization of the workforce. De-skilling and homogenization of the workforce. Meaning what? As technology becomes better and better, okay? See, in early capitalism, say when Marx was writing, workers were clearly divided based on their skill sets into categories of skilled workers, semi-skilled workers, unskilled workers. And did these different categories of workers feel that they are one or not? No. There was no sense of brotherhood or oneness amongst these different categories of workers. The skilled workers would look down upon the semi-skilled or unskilled workers, considering themselves a class apart. Yes or no? But as capitalism advances, as technology improves, all work will become equally de-skilled. Technology will lead to, basically will make any human skills redundant. No jobs will require any skills as technology automates more and more aspects of the work process. Thereby, the distinction between skilled, semi-skilled and unskilled workers will become a thing of the past. In other words, the proletariat will become increasingly homogeneous. Workers will become quite similar to each other. Are you with me? I repeat, as capitalism progresses, with technological advancement, there will be de-skilling. Of all the parts of the work process, thereby removing the distinctions between workers. ठीक है? Making them far more homogeneous. And as they become more and more homogeneous, they will realize that we are all one. Are you with me? They'll start to see each other as fellow workers. A sense of brotherhood will develop amongst them. Right? Secondly, again as capitalism advances, what will happen? The petit bourgeois will sink into the proletariat. The petit bourgeois will sink into the proletariat. Let us try to make sense of or understand what this Farsi means. Petit bourgeois means what? Petit. Have you heard the word in English? Petit. What does it mean? Yeah, I've borrowed from French into English. What does it mean? In what context do we use the word petit? कहाँ हम इंग्लिश में बिजनेसेस को petit बोलते हैं? कन्याओं को बोलते हैं. It's used typically as an adjective for girls or women. You know, a petite girl would be, it basically would mean in the context of a woman, somebody who's very slender. Okay? छोटी सी, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, नाजुक सी, छुई मुई kind of a girl, delicate in that sense. Okay? The word petite literally would imply something, you know, small or delicate. Okay? Petit bourgeois are who? Small capitalists, छोटे businessmen, small business owners, traders, merchants, and small businesses are referred to as petit bourgeois. जो छोटे मोटे businesses चलाते हैं, right? Imagine the neighborhood grocery store, the kirana store in your gully, right? That's a classic representation of a petit bourgeois or a small business. Now, what happens to small businesses as capitalism advances? As capitalism advances, small businesses face very stiff competition from big businesses. And are they able to withstand this competition? The answer is no. Due to the onslaught from big businesses, small businesses will shut down. They will shut down. What happens to the neighborhood grocery store when a Reliance Mart or a Walmart or a Big Bazaar opens in the neighborhood? Now, please appreciate, these small businesses, when they do exist, they play a very important role. The very presence of petite bourgeois in the society has a stabilizing effect. Has a stabilizing effect on the society. Why stabilizing effect? Because the petite bourgeois, they look, or their characteristics are more like bourgeois or proletariat. You tell me. किसके जैसे लगते हैं छोटे बिजनेस ओनर्स? बुर्जुआ या प्रोलेटारियत? Both. The petite bourgeois exhibit characteristics of both the proletariat and the bourgeois. The big businesses, or what Marx calls hot bourgeois, not H-O-T, H-A-U-T-E. Hot bourgeois or big business, or capitalist proper. Like the big bourgeois, the small bourgeois has also invested capital, albeit a small capital. छोटी capital लगाई है. Yes or no? He, like the big bourgeois, is also profit seeking. So he also seeks to make a profit from whatever little money he has invested in the grocery store, say. Right? But, like members of the proletariat, neighborhood grocery store पे कौन बैठता है? कौन बैठता है? Uncle खुद बैठते हैं, the grocery store owner. Are you with me? So they use their labor power. Rather than employing outside labor, they typically employ or use their own labor. Are you with me? And जब अंकल लंच के लिए जाते हैं या टॉयलेट जाते हैं, फिर उनकी वाइफ या उनका बेटा बैठता है. Right? So they typically employ own labor and family labor in the small business enterprise. Very rarely or whatever, but or at a very low level, they would employ any outside labor. एक छोटू रख लेंगे, उसको भी ऐसी आंखों से देखेंगे कि बस वो पूरे टाइम चोरी कर रहा है ना? So that is the nature of small businesses. Are you with me? So they have these characteristics of both classes. So they tend to give an impression that there is gradation in society. Are you with me? So if I, as a member of the proletariat, I'm earning 10,000 rupees. That grocery store owner, possibly living in my neighborhood, is earning 15,000 rupees. A slightly bigger store owner is earning 20,000 rupees. Are you with me? And so, it tends to reduce the gap between the bourgeois and the proletariat. These make it feel that they're also people like us. हमारी तरह ये भी मेहनत करते हैं. हमारी तरह ये भी 2 वक्त की रोजी रोटी गुजार रहे हैं. Are you with me? So that is why the presence of the petite bourgeois has a cushioning or a stabilizing effect on the society. But when capitalism advances, the small businesses are forced to shut shop. क्यों? छोटी दुकान भी रहे, बड़ी दुकान भी रहे, वॉलमार्ट भी रहे और वो मॉम एंड पॉप स्टोर्स भी रहे. क्या दिक्कत है? किसको दिक्कत है? वॉलमार्ट्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड को दिक्कत है. Simply put, friends, the small businesses are unable to withstand the competition from the big businesses because big businesses enjoy economies of scale. So a Walmart or a Big Bazaar will purchase in bulk, because of which their landing cost of a product would reduce. some of the benefit they can pass on to the customer. Yes or no? The big businesses, they have massive advertising budgets, something the small shop owners cannot compete with. So their products, their advertising makes the whole offering seem so glitzy, so glamorous. Big bazaar या उसके ad में कोई करीना कपूर जाके shopping करके आ रही है. There is an aspirational value to that. I as a small shop owner cannot hope to rope in a Kareena Kapoor. उसका cutout बेशक लगा लूंगा. है ना? Are you with me? Oftentimes, big businesses may deliberately employ predatory tactics. For example, they may artificially, offer to the customers products at an artificially low price. Because they have very deep pockets, they can afford to sell even at a loss. Simply to drive out the small businesses from the market. Are you with me? Heavy discounts देंगे, offers देंगे, schemes देंगे, etc. So many things. Simply put, when you are getting the same offering, say आप केले वगैरह खरीदते हो, ठेले वाले से खरीदोगे या वही केले, बढ़िया केले, स्टिकर वाले, एसी एनवायरमेंट में मिलेंगे, सस्ते मिलेंगे, तो बिग बाजार से खरीदोगे. बिग बाजार से खरीदोगे तो केले वाले की रेड़ी का क्या होगा? दुकान का बंद हो जाएगी. ग्रोसरी स्टोर अंकल का क्या होगा? बंद हो जाएगा. And what will the son of the grocery store owner do? He will get a job in the Reliance Mart or the Big Bazaar. मतलब they will join the ranks of the, क्या हो गया? They will join the ranks of the proletariat. They will become workers. Clear? So because of this, class polarization is taking place. The two classes are becoming clearly distinct. Right? Thirdly, may I? As capitalism advances, acha, before also nowadays they are doing this कि they are what do you call? क्या बोलते हैं उसको? Acquisitions वगैरह कर लेते हैं. Small businesses के mergers, सारे साम दाम दंड भेद. Okay? To basically drive out the small businesses, create a monopoly or duopoly or oligopoly in the market. Okay? Even in our coaching industry, you have had these things in the recent years. A lot of small, independent, what would be termed as petit bourgeois, they have been consumed by larger players, behemoths. I also got this offer to wear a black t-shirt with a white logo. Okay? Did it for 2-3 days also, but then I couldn't. Okay? So that would do what? Basically create a kind of a monopoly or something of that sort. Sorry? हाँ, हम प्रोलेटारियत ही तो बन जाते हैं, उनके वर्कर्स बन जाते हैं. क्या पता कल बन भी जाए, तो ज्यादा नहीं. ठीक है? Nextly, as capitalism advances, now small businesses will shut shop. What will happen? Big businesses will keep on getting bigger. So more and more workers will start congregating in bigger factories. एक छत के नीचे और वर्कर्स इकट्ठे होंगे. बड़ी कंपनियों की फैक्ट्रियां और बड़ी होती जाएंगी और उसमें और वर्कर्स इकट्ठे होंगे. I repeat, as capitalism advances, more and more workers will start congregating in larger factories. इससे क्या होगा? More workers will come in close proximity to fellow workers. This will facilitate communication between them. That will also tend to develop a sense of oneness or brotherhood. or a true class consciousness amongst the workers. Sorry? Raise your hand and speak. Yeah. Repeat is कि हमने बोला as capitalism advances, more and more workers will start congregating in bigger factories, resulting in more communication amongst the members of the working class, helping to foster a sense of solidarity or a true class consciousness amongst the proletariat. Nextly, क्या होगा? Another process which takes place as capitalism advances is pauperization of the proletariat. Pauperization of the proletariat. Pauperization means what? Let us forget sociology and Marx for a while in English. What do you understand by the word pauper? And I'm not talking about the paupers that many people pop nowadays. Huh? Pauper. P-A-U-P-E-R. क्या होता है? गरीब, भिखारी, okay, is what we, a mendicant or a poor person, a beggar. That's whom we use the term pauper for. Pauperization of the proletariat means that the proletariat will become poorer vis-a-vis the capitalist class. The proletariat will become poorer relative to the capitalist class. Meaning what? When we say the proletariat will become poorer, what is your sense? Has that happened as capitalism has advanced since Marxist times? Are the members of the working class in the West today better off or worse off than in Marxist times? In objective terms, if you look at the standard of living of workers in the West, what is your sense with whatever knowledge you have? Are they better off or worse off? If we say they are better off, was Marx wrong when he talked about the pauperization? He was not. Both things are correct. Workers are better off today than their ancestors during Marxist times. In absolute terms, say in purchasing power parity or inflation वगैरह side रख के, say in Marxist times a worker could afford 2 square meals a day. Today he can afford 3 square meals a day, plus an air conditioner in his house, plus hot running water and education for his child. ठीक है? So in absolute terms he is better off. But he is worse off in comparison to the capitalist class. Worse off matlab the income gap or the wealth gap between the bourgeois and the proletariat has only increased. That is what he means by pauperization. In comparison to the capitalists, they will become poorer. Say in Marxist times, if a worker was earning $10 and a bourgeois income monthly was say $100, right? Today, workers' income may have increased to $100, but the bourgeois income has increased to $100,000. So relative to the bourgeois, they are worse off, right? And that various data also suggests that the gap between the haves and the have-nots has increased Okay? So Marx was pretty right on that count. Point is, friends, when all these processes are taking place, okay, you have the cushioning effect of the petit bourgeois going away as capitalism advances. The distinctions between skilled, semi-skilled, unskilled workers also being obliterated as capitalism advances. The wealth gap between the workers and the capitalists increasing, and so on. What will happen? The society will now get clearly divided into two opposite camps, what we called class polarization. Us versus them. Us kaun? Hum kaun? The proletariat, the majority, the have-nots. Versus them. The fraction of the population which is ruling over us, exploiting us, oppressing us. Before this class polarization takes place, workers had a false class consciousness. Before class polarization in advanced capitalism, the workers had false class consciousness. Meaning what? Workers did not identify with fellow workers as one. There were divisions, competition, conflict within the members of the working class. Yes or no? The skilled workers would, see themselves as a category apart from the unskilled workers. The supervisors would see themselves as a category apart from the shop floor workers. Are you with me? तुम्हें 2000 रुपए ज्यादा मिल रहे हैं, तुम अपने आप को अलग ही 30 मार खां समझ रहे हो. ठीक है? So they were governed by a false class consciousness. Why? Because their thinking was clouded by ruling class ideology. Ruling class ideology governs the minds of which class? The proletariat. Points हो गए वो processes के. Now I am talking about the cumulative effect of those social processes. That before class polarization in advanced capitalism, the members of the proletariat are governed by a false class consciousness, because false class consciousness meaning they don't think as one. They don't identify with fellow workers as their comrades, or they don't realize they all belong to the same class. Right? Because their thinking is clouded by the ruling class ideology. The thinking of the workers is clouded by ruling class ideology. What is this ruling class ideology? It's a certain set of ideas or thoughts which promotes the interests of the ruling class, which makes their dominance seem all right, justified. This ruling class ideology, for example, this is kind of, this ruling class ideology is promoted through various organs, be it mass media, be it religion, be it education system, be it even something as fundamental as language. all these aspects of the superstructure promote the ruling class ideology, or a way of thinking which seems to justify the dominance of the ruling class, which seeks to promote the interests of the ruling class. We discussed how religion does it or education does it. Yes or no? You know, for example, talking about language, in the Western democratic capitalist societies, one of the often used, overused phrases is, or word is, what is the defining characteristic of the Western societies? Freedom, liberty. Yes or no? There is freedom of speech and expression, freedom of thought, free market economy, free will. And this kind of a language, it hides the wage slavery of the proletariat. Nobody ever asks why there is nothing free in the free market. कैसी free market है ये? And it seems very liberating. Nobody can question this notion of freedom. It is taken as a given, as a positive. Yes or no? धन्यवाद भैया. ऐसे बीच में abruptly कैसे ब्रेक दे दूंगा? So point is, friends, that there is no break in capitalism. ठीक है? It is up to the bourgeois. So point is that the ruling class ideology hides the exploitative nature of the capitalist system. It generates a false class consciousness because of which the members of the proletariat accept their own exploitation. They don't even realize they are being exploited. Are you with me? They consider this exploitative and oppressive system as all right. जब नौकरी लगती है किसी मिडिल क्लास खानदान में, क्या करता है खानदान? मां टीका लगाती है, मिठाई बांटती है. Yes or no? Celebrating that now you will be working for कौड़ियां, for the bourgeois. आपको 50,000 देगा, आपसे 5 लाख का काम कराएगा, 4.5 लाख रुपया खुद रखेगा. और आप कहोगे हाँ सेठ जी तो कमाएंगे, करोड़ों लगाए हैं. तो करोड़ों किसके थे? आपकी एंसेस्टर्स के मेहनत की कमाई थी, जो अक्यूमुलेट कर करके, अक्यूमुलेटेड प्रॉफिट इज कैपिटल. और हम सेलिब्रेट करते हैं नौकरी लग गई. समझ रहे हैं आप? दिस इज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ false class consciousness, which is an effect of the ruling class ideology clouding our minds. Our matlab proletariat. At this juncture, meaning before the class polarization, क्या नाम है तुम्हारा? The proletariat is a class in itself. The proletariat constitutes a class in itself. Meaning what? Okay, you tell me before I explain. Do all the workers constitute or belong to the same class? Do workers belong to the same class? Yes or no? Before class polarization, do all workers belong to the same class? Yes or no? What is class, or what determines a person's class position? If I belong to which class in capitalism, how will you decide? Income. ऐसे आधी अधूरी सी बातें. इनकम क्या होता है? What decides to which class I belong? It is determined by my relationship to the means of production. If I have ownership of the means of production, I am a bourgeois. In a capitalist society, if I own capital, I am a capitalist. And if I do not own the means of production, meaning in capitalist society, if I do not own capital, कौन हूं मैं? Proletariat. ठीक है? So one's class position is determined by one's relationship to the means of production. Clear? Now tell me, do all workers belong to the same class? Yes or no? Yes, they do. All workers do not have or own capital, so they all are workers, or all belong to the class of proletariat. Clear? But do they know or do they realize that they all are members of the same class? The answer is no. Because they are governed by this false class consciousness. 14,000 रुपये कमाने वाला सुपरवाइजर सोचता है मैं 10,000 कमाने वाले वर्कर से कहीं अलग हूं, उसके साथ क्या मैं उठूंगा बैठूंगा? Yes or no? This is what constitutes a class in itself. In objective sense, they are members of the same class, but they do not have the realization, they do not have the awareness that they are members of the same class. इसको बोलते हैं class in itself. ठीक है? I repeat, objectively workers belong to the same class because all of them do not own the means of production, but they do not realize, the subjective realization or awareness is missing, is not there, that they all belong to the same class. Thus they constitute a class in itself. ठीक है? As capitalism advances and class polarization takes place, what happens? Workers transform from a class in itself to a class for itself. Meaning what? Now the workers can see through the ruling class ideology. Their minds are no more clouded by ruling class ideology. उनको समझ आ जाता है ये सब फरेब है, कोई फ्रीडम नहीं है, कोई हेवन शेवन नहीं है, कोई इक्वालिटी शिक्वालिटी जो एजुकेशन सिस्टम कहता है नहीं है, हेवन जो रिलीजन कहता है नहीं है. ठीक है? So, false class consciousness is replaced by true class consciousness. Workers are able to see through the ruling class ideology, or their thinking is no more clouded by the ruling class ideology, and they develop a true class consciousness. Meaning what? Now they can correctly assess the situation. They become aware of their own exploitation. Are you with me? They become a class for itself. Meaning, not only are they in objective terms members of the same class, but they also realize that they all belong to the same class. So they become aware of their common class situation. They become aware that their class interests are same. They identify the common class enemy. कौन है क्लास एनिमी हम सबका? बुर्जुआ. And take collective class action. To overthrow this exploitative and oppressive capitalist system. They take collective class action. ये होती है क्लास फॉर इट सेल्फ. टू ओवरथ्रो दी कैपिटलिस्ट सिस्टम. क्या क्लास एक्शन? हाँ, कलेक्टिव तो है. क्या करते क्या है कलेक्टिवली? द प्रोलेटारियत रेवोल्यूशन, विच विल बी, कैसा होगा? when workers will rise up. Yes, it will be a bloody revolution. खून की नदियां बहेंगी. It will be violent. The class enemy will be annihilated. तो हम सब वर्कर्स मिलके उठ खड़े होंगे और कैपिटलिस्ट के सर धड़ से अलग कर देंगे. एंड क्या इस्टेब्लिश करेंगे? एक क्लासलेस, इगैलिटेरियन, कम्युनिस्ट सोसाइटी. And this proletariat revolution that Marx writes about is a certainty. It is inevitable. According to Sri Karl Marx. So the downfall of capitalism is a given. It's certain. Capitalism will collapse under its own weight because of the inherent contradictions and conflicts that are ever present in capitalist society. फिर हम एक नई दुनिया बनाएंगे. कैसी? इगैलिटेरियन, क्लासलेस सोसाइटी. ठीक है? यू आर मोर कंसर्न्ड अबाउट पेटी मैटर्स लाइक ब्रेक्स. यहां पे हम रेवोल्यूशन की बात कर रहे हैं, तो आप ब्रेक लीजिए. Please settle down, friends. Can you please shut the door? Thank you. So, are you ready to move on to the next stage of human social evolution? Away from this exploitative and oppressive capitalist system? Chaliye. But before we can reach the last stage of communism, there is an intervening stage. After the proletariat revolution and before the establishment of a truly communist society, known as the dictatorship of the proletariat. Before the establishment of a truly communist society and in the aftermath of the proletariat revolution, there is a stage known as dictatorship of the proletariat. Sometimes it is also referred to as the stage of socialism. To be sure, friends, this word socialism or socialist society is used in multiple ways in political science and political sociology. It is used to denote this stage, which I will be discussing what it is about. Okay, the dictatorship of the proletariat. Another usage is sometimes it is used synonymously with communism. Communist society, socialist society, they are used somewhat interchangeably. Another usage would be, sometimes it is used to refer to what we call Gandhian socialism, say in the Indian context. Or in the British context, what is known as Fabian socialism. Okay, or from which also influenced who? Chacha Nehru. ठीक. So what is this stage of dictatorship of the proletariat? After the proletariat revolution, some members of the proletariat seize control. Likh bhi lo. Some members of the proletariat seize control of the state apparatus and the productive forces. Seize control of the state apparatus and the production system. किसके लिए? खुद के लिए नहीं. On behalf of the whole of the proletariat. On behalf of the whole, WHOLE, of the proletariat. What do we mean when we say some members will seize control of the state apparatus and the means of production? Simply that some people will, workers, members of the working class will take control of the government and the economy, land and factories and all of that, right? For the or representing the whole of the proletariat. Now this is a necessary stage before communism proper can be established. Before the final stage of communism can be established, this is a necessary intervening stage. What does this dictatorship of the proletariat do? Their primary task, its primary task is to remove the last vestiges of capitalism. To remove the last vestiges of capitalism. Last vestiges मतलब कि जो भी remaining aspects of capitalism है, they need to be weeded out, literally. They need to be finished before a truly communist society can be established. See, what does the proletariat revolution do? It eliminates the class enemy. Right? So you have finished off the capitalists. But that by itself is not sufficient to establish an egalitarian social order. Why? In every mode of production, friends, please appreciate there is a supporting superstructure. That needs to be dismantled by the dictatorship of the proletariat. Are you with me? For example, there would be various laws which protect the interests of the capitalists. Are you with me? Religion would be there in society. The education system would be working in such a way so as to promote capitalist interests, and so on and so forth. Are you with me? These need to be done away with. So you have to remove capitalism lock, stock and barrel. उसको जड़ से खत्म करना है. And that is the task of the dictatorship of the proletariat. To dismantle the supporting superstructure. So that a complete transition can be made to a truly communist society. उसके बाद क्या कौन सी स्टेज आएगी? The final stage, which is communist society. कैसी होगी हमारी कम्युनिस्ट सोसाइटी? What will be the nature of this communist society? You know, one thing, sorry to interrupt, but one interesting thing, Marx is regarded as the high priest of communism. All efforts directed towards the establishment of communist society have, in modern times, have sought inspiration from the writings of Shri Karl Marx. But Marx has written very scantily about what will be the nature of this communist society. Much of his attention, much of his efforts, much of his writings have been devoted to a very detailed critique of capitalist society. What will be the future social order which will replace it, yani communist society? You know, you find mentions here and there scattered across Marx's voluminous writings. And not a very clear outlining of what that communist society will be. Nevertheless, if we glean through Marx's writings, उनको हम ध्यान से बहुत सारी राइटिंग्स को पढ़ें तो कुछ कुछ हमें हिंट्स मिलते हैं ये कम्युनिस्ट सोसाइटी कैसी होगी. कैसी होगी बताओ? इट विल बी एन egalitarian society. अर्थात all members of the society will be equal. There will be no भेदभाव, no छोटा बड़ा, no अमीर गरीब. Yes or no? Nobody living in obnoxious wealth, in a towering structures like an Antilla. And you won't have millions living in a sea of poverty all around, not being able to afford 2 square meals a day. It will become a thing of the past. It will be a classless society. There will no more be a class of haves or a class of have-nots. What will happen to tera mera, private property? There will be no private property. The concept of private property will have been actively abolished. In this society, in the communist society, will there be exploitation? There will be no exploitation and oppression of man by fellow man. Exploitation and oppression will be a thing of the past. What will happen to the state? It will be a stateless society. Marx says, Marx says the state will wither away. The state will wither away. Arthat, what do you mean by withering in English? Forget socio. Withering, what withers? Leaves wither. पत्ते जो झड़ जाते हैं ना पेड़ से, उसको बोलते हैं withering. Okay? Meaning what here? That the state will die its own natural death. That is what it literally means when we say that the state will wither away. Okay, like leaves, once their life is over, they die. They jhado. What is the role of the state in a capitalist or in a class society? क्या रेगुलेशन? पॉलिटी के लेक्चर से बोल रहे हो? अरे मेरी बेटी, yes. The state belongs to is a part of the Marxist भाषा में सोचो, part of the superstructure. What do various elements of the superstructure do? They legitimize and justify the inequalities in the base. They promote the class interests of the haves. In a capitalist society, the bourgeois. Are you with me? But in the classless communist society, there are no inequalities that need to be justified. There are no class interests to be protected. So there is no need for a state. So the state will wither away. It will be a stateless society. What will happen to religion? It will be a religionless society. What does religion do? It deceives. It masks the true nature of reality. Yes or no? It is again a part of the superstructure which legitimizes inequalities. There are no inequalities. This is a classless society. There will be no need for a religion. It will be a propertyless, classless, moneyless, stateless society. How will be the technology in this stage. Very advanced. Highly advanced. Even more advanced than the capitalist stage. What about production? Will there be in a communist society, will there be abundance or shortage? Abundance. दूध और शहद की नदियां बहेंगी. How will the economy be organized? कोई centralized वगैरह नहीं. लिखो, the production and distribution of goods will be governed by the dictum या principle of will be governed by the principle of, in quotation marks, from each according to his ability. I repeat, from each according to his ability. Comma, to each, to each according to his needs. I repeat, from each according to his ability, comma, to each according to his needs. Quotations close. Meaning what? People will contribute to the society, or the society will receive from its individual members depending on their abilities. For example, if you are a coder, very adept at your task, at this task, please code for us. She is a wonderful singer. So what will she give to the society? She will sing for us. He paints very well, so he will do painting for us. He is good with manufacturing cloth. So say he makes 5 shirts a day. Please make 5 shirts a day for us. She is also into making cloth. She makes 20 shirts a day. So she will make 20 shirts a day for us. He makes 100 shirts a day. That's his ability. So he will give us 100 shirts a day. She is a wonderful cricket player. So she will do. So from each according to his ability. जो समाज के प्रति जो योगदान कर सकता है, करिए. To each according to his needs. So whatever are your necessities or requirements, the society will fulfill them. You need a new pair of shoes. Your shoes have worn out. So society will provide you a new pair of shoes. You need new clothes. The society will give you a new set of clothes. You've run out of soap. The society will provide you soap. Are you with me? आपका सोप चल रहा है तो आप अपना चलाइए. ठीक है? समाज आपकी सारी जरूरतें पूरी करेगा. Capitalism में what is the governing principle? From each according to his ability, and to each according to his ability or contribution. So if you make 5 shirts for me, I'll pay you 500. If she makes 20 shirts for me, I will pay her 2000 or 2000. If he makes 50 shirts for me, I'll pay him 5000. ठीक है ना? बट हमारे कम्युनिज्म में ऐसा नहीं है. Clear? Will people suffer from alienation in communist society? Of course not. Alienation will be a thing of the past. लिखिए, and I quote, the society will make it possible. I repeat, the society will make it possible for me to hunt in the morning. To hunt in the morning, comma, catch fish in the afternoon. Rear cattle in the evening. कॉमा डालते जाइएगा. The society will make it possible for me to hunt in the morning, comma, catch fish in the afternoon, comma, rear cattle in the evening, and criticize after dinner. And criticize after dinner without, same sentence, without ever having to become a hunter, comma, a fisherman, comma, a shepherd, और क्रिटिक. जो क्रिटिसाइज करता है उसको क्रिटिक बोलते हैं. फिल्म्स को क्रिटिसाइज जो करता है उसको क्रिटिक बोलते हैं, फिल्म क्रिटिक, है ना. इन अदर वर्ड्स फ्रेंड्स, कोट्स क्लोज, हु सेड? श्री कार्ल मार्क्स. मीनिंग व्हाट? दैट पीपल विल नो मोर बी ट्रैप्ड इन नैरो ऑक्यूपेशनल रोल्स. Are you with me? मैं क्या कर सकता हूं? मैं सब कुछ कर सकता हूं. जो मेरा मन चाहे मैं वो कर सकता हूं. You don't get branded for life. You don't get bracketed in a certain category, occupational category for life, which I'm sure many of you can identify with. I don't want to spend the rest of my life as an engineer. Yes or no? और एज अ डॉक्टर और एन अकाउंटेंट बोरिंग लगता है, कैद लगता है. यहां पे क्या है? ये है असली फ्रीडम. ठीक है. सो वंस अगेन मैन विल रियलाइज हिज ट्रू पोटेंशियल. Hello? Yeah. So man will once again realize his true potential. He will once again be able to express his personality, his individuality in the product of his labor. He will once again reaffirm the bonds binding him to the rest of the humanity. Yes or no? कम्युनिस्ट सोसाइटी में आप मुझे बोलोगे कि सर क्या सोशियोलॉजी पढ़ाते हो, तो मैं क्या कहूंगा कि आओ बैठो, सुनाता हूं तुम्हें मार्क्स की कहानी. Yes or no? Why will I work for money? No, it is a moneyless society. लिख लो. There is no concept of money. छोटी बात, पुरानी बात. So why will I work? For the innate satisfaction that working brings. It is my species' essence to work. So my true nature, what it means to be a human being, will once again be fully expressed. हाँ बिल्कुल. ऐसी होगी हमारी कम्युनिस्ट सोसाइटी. और ये है बच्चों मार्क्स की कहानी. ठीक है, ज्यादा जल्दी में हूं. बिफोर वी लीव, कैसा लगा लड़का, आदमी रादर? ही वाज लड़का फॉर अ वेरी शॉर्ट वाइल. व्हाट इज योर टेक on Karl Marx? Guys, let's hear each other out.
I'm not an anti-Marxist, but I have serious reservations about this final stage. Firstly, he portrays it as a bed of roses. It's a very utopian ideology.
It is a very utopian, impractical, you're suggesting. It cannot happen.
The fact that he says
One second. How many of you kind of agree with that, even if you like Marx? That this notion of a communist society is very utopian, impractical. It's like Mungeri Lal ke Haseen Sapne, which can never be realized. It's too perfect a picture that he has painted, and it cannot be realized in actuality. How many of us are, I'll come back to you, beta. How many of us are Marxists? Okay, or broadly in agreement with his analysis of society? Raise your hands. Without a shame. Lal salam. How many of us, even if you agree with parts of his theory, but substantially you are in agreement. Substantially you are in agreement with the guy. Quite a few. This is a pura Marxist batch. I'll have to tailor my teaching accordingly. What if they are carrying a sickle and a hammer? How many of us are anti-Marxists? बच के रहना. You seem to be the sole one. Only one, and the rest are like fence sitters. ठीक है. Yeah, so please.
secondly,
You speaking for or against Marx?
I'm against the idea of the communist state. All I appreciate some of the aspects.
So let's appreciate. Begin with appreciation. If you do, let us all try to appreciate what is there to appreciate in Marx. Why do you like him? Why do you agree with him?
Because firstly, he's pragmatic that there is bound to be conflict in a society where two classes exist. Then he speaks in favor.
So his is a very pragmatic kind of a portrayal, unlike say the functional portrayal of society as based on integration, harmony, cooperation, consensus. Such bullshit. Real social life, she suggests, is based upon conflict and struggle and oppression and exploitation.
The second really nice thing is that he admits the fact, he points out the fact that every time there has been a revolution, power has been replaced by powerful people. The haves and have-nots have not actually come across each other in conflict directly.
So her second contention is that what Marx says, that history is basically partly a farce and partly a tragedy, right? That one dominant class is replaced by another without any real emancipation for the masses or the have-nots. That is quite correct in her analysis. और बताइए, Marxists, जी बेटे.
According to me, there may be a slight delay in the communism emerging, but it will come
It will eventually come. It's something like अच्छे दिन आएंगे जरूर. हाँ, फर्स्ट नहीं तो सेकंड नहीं तो थर्ड टर्म में. हाँ, so there is some innate desire, you believe, in all human beings to establish an egalitarian society. An egalitarian order seems, naturally more appealing, more just, more fair. Huh? How many of you want to live in an egalitarian society? जहां कोई बड़े छोटे का भेदभाव नहीं, गरीबी का अभाव नहीं, या कुछ वंचित रहने का, सब समान, सब बराबर. I see many capitalist hands also. Huh? Yeah, some. चलिए और बताइए ब्रदर. डोंट क्रिटिसाइज माई कार्ल मार्क्स. ठीक है, अभी वी आर स्पीकिंग फॉर मार्क्स. हाँ बेटे. Very interesting. Just build on that.
So, his way of study, he has provided us with a pattern through which we can study society or a particular matter. So, that pattern of study is what I appreciate.
Basically, emphasis on the economic factors. You think that is well placed. Is that what you're suggesting? To analyze human history?
Not entirely only the economy, but the process of his study, how he has analyzed.
ठीक है.
His method.
So he is appreciative of the Marxist method. Bitia. His explanation of alienation. हाँ. Right. Yes. Yes, I remember आपने कल भी भड़ास निकाली थी on this issue, है ना? So alienation is something many of us can connect with at his analysis or the concept of alienation. Many of us can connect with at a very personal level, है ना? Having experienced it ourselves. Beti.
One thing that has to be appreciated is that a person whom we are calling impractical in the communist society has been the most practical in all other cases of explaining how a liberal has changed and then getting out some points of alienation in society and exploitation which is suffered by many people in the society.
So you are suggesting Marx may have been wrong in his prediction for the future, the establishment of a communist society, but he was quite right in his analysis of the previous historical epochs and capitalism. Is that what your contention?
I would not say that he is wrong, but maybe we can question ourselves that maybe we are not that bad because he has given such some things we are agreeing to.
ये है ना टू मार्क्सिस्ट, है ना, कह रही है कि फ्यूचर भी वो भी आएगा, कम्युनिज्म भी आएगा. देयर इज स्टिल दैट पॉसिबिलिटी, कैन नॉट बी रूल्ड आउट. बेटी.
One more positive aspect can be that despite being from a well-off family, he touched upon this. However, he lived off
But he compensated him more than amply, yeah? है ना, make him kind of made him amar along with himself. तो ठीक है.
name comes first, even though E comes before M.
अच्छा, हाँ, ठीक है. So though he lived off, she says, Engel's money, but he did. Yes, brother.
So like Marx provides a way forward, like how society should be.
हमारा मार्गदर्शन भी करते हैं मार्क्स. साइंटिस्ट के साथ साथ एक आइडियोलॉग भी हैं. हाँ, कैसा समाज का गठन करना है और उसके लिए क्या करना है, ब्रदर. हाँ. So, tell me, why do you agree with Marx, or why do you like him? हाँ. So we are getting more attached to these things rather than fellow human beings, huh? AI will take over, huh? Beti? Yeah. So these functionalists were, Marx himself can be termed as a positivist. Let's say if the functionalists were, as she puts it, blabbering on and on about the positive aspects of society. So Marxist analysis offers a very appropriate corrective, to that rosy picture of society that they were painting. Brother?
Sir, Marxist writing might not have been the very correct way to portray the future, but it has indeed influenced the future society.
It has influenced the future course of social evolution.
If we even talk about the capitalist society, even if it survives, it would be very much influenced by the
Even capitalism, very well made point, even capitalism, if it survives, owes some credit to who? Marx. In what way? Elaborate.
like he has pointed out the problems of capitalism.
Absolutely. He has pointed out the problems of capitalism. That is why many would argue capitalism transformed from the, exploitative early capitalism into the welfare capitalism of the 20th century. Brother?
I would add upon that the current benefits that we all are having, like
We matlab the proletariat, हाँ,
the labor rights we have,
the labor rights that we enjoy,
equal wages we have,
the wages that we, higher wages that we enjoy, minimum wage legislation.
it is like highly
We owe a thanks to who? Shri Karl Marx. ठीक है? So, Lal Salam. And we end today with that. ठीक है?